Welcome to the Wooper Club League Season 17 Heat of the Season. I'm your host, IllLogic. I'm the coach of the Buffalo Bouffalant, and Season 17 is in the books. Big congratulations to the Wooper Boopers for their win. However impressive their run was, how impressive was it? And if that doesn't make sense, that makes sense. But we're talking about a different kind of impressive in this wrap-up video. We're talking the crazy, the out-of-the-box, and the out-of-the-ordinary, the truly Heat plays, decisions, and team building that made this season amazing. We've got 25 of the coolest plays of our Season 17 low-tier double season, plus a few more dishonorable mentions of plays that seemed good in theory but just did not work out for one reason or another. When things like Viper putting in the work and Garganackle soloing the semifinals didn't even make the list, you know we've got some heat to go through. Big shout out to Sasbo for helping me out with a lot of the legwork here. There's a lot to get to, so let's get to it. We're starting off with number 25, featuring a Week 3 match between Joe 8's Akron Agrons and our featured Just Gruggles' Calgary Corviknights. It's a bit of bad luck from the Akron Agrons to start off with, but this Gliscor pops off in the match turn when the Sneasel misses Gunk Shot, though Comfey is holding a Focus Sash, but that does let it set up the Trick Room as IllLogic puts up Tailwind. This +2 Gliscor is ready to go. How are we trying to slow that down? Maybe by switching in 2 Intimidators. But this is not Poison Heal Gliscor. It's Hyper Cutter, so Dual Wing Beat connects at +2, and with a crit on the second hit, Mightyena goes down immediately. Venusaur comes in next. Maybe it's a chance to chip away. It's going to protect its Overquill. Overquill does get some of that chip, but Gliscor's target is, in fact, the Overquill. Going for the single target high horsepower to down yet another Mon for basically free. Sneasel is too fast for Trick Room, but it can threaten with Fake Out. But there's the fourth move, Protect, to stop that nonsense. Plus, it baits out the Terra as Venusaur tries to get off of the weakness to Gliscor's Flying Stab, and it reveals that Venusaur is going for Sleep Powder, so Gliscor can simply Terra Grass, KO the Sneasel in one hit as Venusaur's attack is blanked. It just does not get better for Joe 8. Gliscor is eventually chipped away and gets another KO in the meantime, and leaves the Agrons devastated. The doubles Gliscor, sweeping the game away. At number 24, we've got a double feature as both the Newport Noctowls and the Evergrande Empoleons show off some amazing prep work in their Week 4 matchup. Turn 2 has this lineup on the field. Let's see how straightforward things are or are not. Flygon in as rocks go up. Razor Shell is a strong move in Emboar, but that procs Pasho Berry to reduce the power of the super effective attack. Will it fire off a strong CC and a Cloyster, but that'll proc the Focus Sash, so Cloyster lives. Looks like it may go down the next turn, but it has the priority option at least to be able to go into the Flygon. But there's another Sash, this time on the side of the Empoleons. Now it's free to take the double KO with EQ, or not, because there's a Shucka Berry on Tinkaton, which lets it live, and then take the KO on the Emboar next turn with some help from Infernape taking out the Flygon. What a cool back and forth. Great prep from all these items procking. 4 procs in 2 turns, getting the most out of everything, with the Noctowls winning their first matchup here, 2-0. Our number 23 Heat play brings us back to the Akron Agrons. 1 week after their embarrassing loss to the Corviknights, we show off a couple of plays ago. So to turn things around in Week 4 against the Corviknight Clobbers, the Agrons are putting their hopes on Hatchram, the magic of low tiers, everyone, making its season debut on turn 6. Going to be able to set up Trick Room for what we all saw as a decidedly Tailwind team. So what gives? Well, it looks like Nuzzle is a neat start as it actually does get a KO onto Moltres with the weak non-stab move. Neat. But now what? We're kind of speeding through here because this thing lasts a long time on the field. Life Dew is putting in some good work. Supporting the Duraludon is that's a big KO with Draco Meteor there as well. Glowbro starts healing up its partner too. Joey identifies that as a threat and targets it down a bit. Also gets off some good nuzzles here into things like the Altaria, the Tauros, etc. Getting big support as the Clobbers target down the Typhlosion and the Illumise. And eventually enough, it's just the Duraludon and Hatchram. With Hatchram by its side, magic happens. Tauros chipped enough to get KO'd by its partner's EQ. Dark Pulse KOs. Glowbro as Duraludon barely hangs on. How about all these life dews keeping the building healthy? Obviously, Hatchram and Duraludon is a fearsome duo. Here's what low tiers can do for you. The last time we saw the Wooper Woopers lose, it was Week 2 in their first matchup against the Summit County Psyducks, thanks to our number 22 Heat. The Boopers swept through the playoffs with a lot of help from Indeedee and Garganackle, so seeing both of them here is a great sign, right? Well, what about the Assault Vest Luxray, able to eat a Helping Hand boosted Expanding Force with relative ease while still having enough power to KO Indeedee right back with a Wild Charge and survive the recoil plus the Sandstorm chip? You'll take that trade all day, and it's only going to get better. We do see a couple of turns later that Lycanroc is going to take a hit here and then be able to strike back with an Endeavor. Yeah, it takes a hit with a full health Milotic and Garganackle. How do you ever chip that down? 82% from the Endeavor Lycanroc sacrificing its life so Hippo can take it down. That is a great trade to ensure that Luxray, which is still alive by the way, can get off another Intimidate against the last two Booper Mons. Without setup or recovery on Garganacl, Scrappy Decidueye, and Hippo combined to bring down the Terraghost Salt Mine and bring the Boopers down to 0-2, a record that would become 9-2 at the end of the season, but was brought to its lowest point thanks to the AV Luxray and Endeavor Lycanroc. Nice brings. The Boopers had a couple of close calls along the way, not the least of which was this Week 8 matchup against the Calgary Corviknights. A win and in for Just Greggles. This was much more important for them compared to the Boopers, who had already clinched a playoff spot, but gatekeeping Greg is always funny. As was turn 1, we see a slow Copperajah next to Comfey, who will, of course, be trying to set up Trick Room to help it out, but it doesn't go last. The Jumpluff side also clicks Trick Room. Bouffalant, the Poltegeist, probably my favorite nickname of the season, also clicks Trick Room the same turn Comfey sets it up, erasing a potentially huge turn 1 from the Corviknights. Seeing that Trick Room is Calgary's playing, the Boopers swap up their strategy, they bring in the Muck and burn the Copperajah, leading to a big turn 3 in which Comfey goes down. Muck gets +1 attack from the Lychee Berry, and Copperajah is almost down. This ended up being an incredibly close game, being determined by an 8% Gyarados being the last one up and KOing a Terra Water Chestnut. What if the Boopers had been caught out of position from the turn 1 Trick Room? Going for the raw Trick Room, the turn it was set up with a Copperajah on the other side was incredibly risky, but it paid off for the Boopers and helped keep Greg out of the playoffs. Okay, number 20 features the Cincinnati Incineroar in their matchup against my Buffalo Bouffalant in the quarterfinals. We were all a little unsure of what the Incineroar were trying to do with all the transactions they made, but they came close to pulling off a big upset win thanks to their Melodic. Things didn't start off too hot for them with two powerful mons going down the first two turns, but Melodic did get set up with the Coil, and then showed off the special attacks being dished out. Taunt stops its recover, thank goodness, but no drop from Seed Flare turn 4 actually ends up being a good thing here, even though we see the Zamorak go down there. Seed Flare going into it does big damage, but no drop's a good thing because this is a competitive mon here. Dishing out Blizzard with the increased accuracy is huge for the Incineroar here. It goes Terra Electric the next turn, and whenever the Seed Flare does give the minus boost, it does give that competitive boost, allowing that Blizzard to do huge damage. Maybe one turn earlier with a special defense drop on the turn earlier on the Terra there would have been potentially devastating there. Could have been curtains for my Bouffalant. Thank goodness I got unlucky, and the Melodic went down, only claiming one victim, but it looked poised to go off after that, especially if Taunt had worn off and it got in the recover. A big what if in League history now. At number 19, it's another match with big playoff implications, this time featuring the Route 1 Burbs fighting for their playoff lives against the Corinth Phalanx. Turn 1, we can see that obviously the Burbs are going to be going for Trick Room with Slowking. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Of course, that's relatively obvious. What else are you expecting from this? And of course, good Protector on the Overheat, and here goes the Trick Room, but oh, what's this? Room Service Vikavolt. That's a neat option. It lets it underspeed everything but the minus speed Dipplin in Trick Room, including the Rhyperior that turns 4 and 5. It forces it to go Terra Fire early, only to go down to Vikavolt anyways. Love seeing the niche item getting some real use here in helping the Burbs early game and route to a Week 7 win that kept their playoff hopes alive. Number 18 is a strange one. It's the only time my Buffalo Bouffalant are featured, and this one is in a match against the Waterdeep Wobbuffets. One of the things I was curious about coming into this match in the season in general was the impact of hazards and doubles, so I had some focus around setting up rocks and getting Steve to have to swap in and out. However, we've got a bit of a bigger issue here in turn 7. Steve shows that he has a max HP, max physical defense Blaziken, and it's setting up SD along the speed boost. Also has Clear Amulet for my Torracat's Intimidate, and it's going to click Terra Steel this turn to resist everything I can do. What's the play, and why isn't this the mon being featured? Well, on this turn, Torracat is going to end up waking up just in time, and we're going to see the niche little move here that we're using, not something you normally see in doubles. It's going to actually be the Roar here, in minus priority Roar, to remove all the SD buffs just in time before it gets totally out of control. Torracat does go down later, but then Dunsparce engages with Steve's team in a long, drawn-out battle alongside the Florges and others, but it's Dragon Tail that's the strange move here getting highlighted, phasing out Steve's mons several times, often getting Chip alongside Stealth Rocks. This is a super long, drawn-out battle, sorry about that, Steve, with several mistakes from both sides along the way, but the interesting use cases of Roar alongside Dragon Tail was enough to earn a spot. Okay, this is the first delineation point in my notes here. We're getting serious with a major upgrade in our flavors of heat, starting off with number 17, the Rocky Mountain Cloisters facing the Evergreen Empoleons in Week 3. Things start off strong with the Charizard show to chip away at the Empoleons team before setting up a Trick Room. Yeah, against the Trick Room team, it's the Cloisters who set that up, and it's going to work quite well. Snorlax KOs the Emboar, the fighting type, threatening to now set up the Belly Drum. And up to 4 times attack, Ice Punch is going to get a couple of huge KOs on flying types there at the end, especially with support from Hydrapple's Sideways Pollen Puff. That Snorlax went off against the finalist team, so that's a nice highlight for the season for the Cloisters. Number 16 is the start of a couple of trends. Here we see the Week 7 matchup between the San Jose Sharpedos and the Summit County Psyducks, a match we're going to revisit multiple times later, but for now we're focused on the Cobalion. It's been a pretty even match so far, but Cobalion has just entered the fray with a +1 defense thanks to the Grassy Seed. And on turn 7, it's going to set up again here with an Iron Defense, an interesting choice to say the least, considering the All My Friends Are Dead syndrome defensive setup usually invites, but hey, it's going to immediately pay off the next turn thanks to a big body press Oko into the Reggie Gigas. It's asleep for several turns later on in the match, but stays on the field for a long time, eventually culminating in tanking hits and then scoring the final KO onto Tornadoes. The Cobalion appears to have been the answer the Sharpedos needed to get a big win in their playoff push. See if you can guess why. We'll be back to this one later. The top 15 starts off with a familiar story, visiting the Corinth Phalanx in Week 1 against the Cloisters. Things don't start off too great, the Serena bringing things back pretty well as Skarmory does get up Tailwind, and then it's going to set up the Terra Water as it changes its only answer on the opponent's team from Charizard to Hydrapple, which is a mon that was just knocked out. It also has Whirlwind as a neat utility move. Shout out to the phasing going on around here. But then it's going to reveal the last move. And stop me if you've heard this one before. It's going to be Iron Defense. What's going to break through this thing on the opponent's team? Poltergeist is immune to Body Press, but when Barraskewda breaks through Dondozo, it just isn't doing much damage to make meaningful progress. It's another case of a mon setting up so much that the opponent doesn't have an option to break through. Skarmory, man. But number 14 is the crowned jewels of these types of setup, featuring the Incineroar again in their Week 3 matchup against the Sharpedos. Turn 7, we're going to see a great play from the Sharpedos. Terra Ghost, follow me for it to immune the CC from Ditto as the Sharpedos' own Scrafty takes out its copy, bringing them to a 6-3 lead. Meanwhile, though, Terra Water Registeel clicks Iron Defense, and then it's going to click it again as Gallade knocks out the Furret. Oricorio is going to come in too, and Knockoff's going to KO that as ghost types are down. That's big news for Registeel, who almost KOs Weezing by itself too. Slaking does KO the Glade. Magmar helps a bit, but goes down to Slaking too. But Registeel is still perfectly healthy minus a burn. Terra Water was a perfect call, and with Protect at the end of the game, it could ignore the Truant Slaking. Snipe Shot is only doing 10 or 11 or so percent, so Registeel is able to win the game almost by itself. Glade provided good support KOing the ghost types, but Registeel is the star of the show in this big turnaround for the Incineroar. So that was nice and all, but why do we see Terra fighting Registeel at +2 defense yet again at the number 13 slot? That's because this time we're featuring Chad Seattle Steamrollers looking to actually close out the game against the setup Terra Registeel, and we get to see some neat application from the powerhouse Bear Tick. Enter a Bomb Snow to trigger Slush Rush, but it's not so it can attack Gyarados first or anything. It's Encore time. You're setting up Iron Defense against my all-physical attackers? Okay, yeah, go for it, do it. Over and over again while we take up Gyarados and leave you alone. It's going to be a long, brutal fight after that, needing to encore again multiple times, but in comes Ceruledge, sets up 3 SDs for free thanks to the encore, and Bitterblade inevitably breaks through in a neat application of a neat move. You probably didn't expect to see the Pikeville Pups on the list, especially as high as number 12, did you? But check out the very intentional turn 1 play here. The Hippo hides after rearrange a bit as one water type sets up rocks and the other attacks the other, but Liquidation triggers Storm Drain, so Gastrodon is actually getting set up. The hides are playing around the earth powers pretty well, but at +2, Surf is easily going to KO the Staraptor that switches in, and then they're forced to resort to Destiny Bond to KO Gastrodon after it's taken down half the team. From there, their classic Terra Water Slowbro finishes the match. The Pups grab a well-deserved win. And just outside the top 10, we've got another double feature in a different way than you may expect. We're starting off with the Rocket City Zigzagoons, and they're playing the Route 1 Burbs in Week 2. Turn 1 Haxorus clicks Protect a Scout, but that's not the target. Passimian outspeeds Lucario and is going to click Beat Up, triggering Justified over and over again, boosting Lucario up to +6 attack. And that is going to be an attack that's going into the Slowking next, as we see the wall of text fly across the screen here. Crunch is going to KO from full through a Colbur Berry. Wow, E-Speed takes out Electabuzz too, a worthy sacrifice to the Haxorus. There's plenty more hacks along the way to help, but that Lucario helped get the Zigzagoons their first Wooper Club League win. But I said this was a double feature. Why? Well, what if I told you the Zigzagoons weren't the only ones to use the beat up justified combo in week 2? The Sharpedos facing the Empoleons and played the same strategy, clicking the button with Pheasantipity on their Cobalion. It does KO the Flygon, it does most of Rotom's health, allowing Swag to pick up the KO with Grassy Glide. It KOs Emboar. And when the world needed it most, it clicks Protect as Glowking gets up Trick Room for free. The only way to lose the game, frankly. The Empoleons do pick up the win, but both beat up justified strats were significant for their coaches in week 2. Before we get to the top 10 plays, we should take some time to look at some of those poor, unfortunate souls who almost made it. The coaches who got cheated, hacked out, unwittingly outsmarted by the RNG gods. For example, remember this match? Water Tornadoes is going to be a great call here. It makes a lot of sense against Inteleon and Typhlosion, among others, and it's going to give them a chance to Nasty Plot up after setting up a Tailwind. Or not. Yeah, it's frozen, so it's not really a threat anymore. The Psyducks play around it as well as they can, but not be able to click Bleak Wind Storm, say, the next turn against Thwacky and Scrafty is not ideal. Great use of Regenerator, again, swapping it in and out to tank hits before swapping out, even thawing out later intentionally against Typhlosion, but it's just too little too late, especially with an Iron Defense Cobalion on the other side that we featured earlier. Our next poor soul is the Sharpedos, who have come up with a neat way to remove Slaking's ability. They used Wheezing with Slaking incredibly well this season. Why not try another option here this time with Worry Seed? Well, the issue is it doesn't work, I guess. Yeah, that would just be a little too good, wouldn't it? Can't let Slaking be good ever. And that would prove to be potentially the difference as the Hegrons eke out the 1-0 win. Oops. The poster boy for unfortunate luck this season appears to have been the Route 1 Burbs, who can somehow climb all the way back to a playoff berth with a win in this Week 8 match against the Sharpedos. So how does it go? We're on turn 2 here, and you obviously know that we're going to be clicking Hurricane, and it misses. Well, that happens, often to some of us. That's fine, that happens. Muddy Water Inteleon, interesting, that lowers accuracy. Yeah, that makes sense, yeah. So it's going to be a Muddy Water the next turn. And if you hadn't guessed already, it's going to be another accuracy drop. And Freeze Dry is going to miss. Yeah, that makes sense. Another attack, another miss. At least Slowking doesn't flinch on this turn with the Dark Pulse, at least, I guess. Yeah, another miss there. That's fine. Swap those guys out, reset. We're going to fast forward to turn 10 here. And Hurricane. Hey, well, look at that. 2 Hurricanes hit. Okay, that's pretty good. And then on turn 12, we're going to miss. Yeah, but hey, the Burbs are back in the driver's seat after his disastrous start. After this upcoming turn here, we just have to make it through 2 starters, and you've basically got it made. So we're basically in the driver's seat here. One more turn, one more Muddy Water, and you already know that that's going to be an accuracy drop. Survive the eruption, barely, with the Slowking. That's pretty nice. But you already know that the Scald that's going to slow down the Typhlosion's eruption power is going to miss. So eruption still has full power, and yeah, that's going to be game. Muddy Water has destroyed your hopes and dreams. Oof. In second place, we hate seeing creativity get smushed by some unfortunate luck, and that's what happened to the Hippo Heights. They have a great idea to start off the season with a bang. Turn 2, we're going to do a Volt Switch here. Relatively slow from the Belly Bolt. It's a little faster than Albom's. No, that's no big deal, but we're going to go into the Mudsdale, eat the Blizzard, and for the second time here, of course, Freeze. That's going to ruin everything, I think. Man, that's the whole strategy revolves around this Mudsdale, but might as well at least go for it. The Sideways Fury Swipes for stamina. Yeah, okay. I guess that was never happening, was it? Oh, well. But truly, who is more unfortunate this season than our co-host and commissioner, Steve Chuck? Look no further than his Week 5 matchup against the Summit County Psyducks. Turn 1, this Noivern is being threatened by Ice Beam and Empoleon, but worry not. Steve's prep should prove to be the cure, bringing the Eject Pack Noivern, allowing him to get damage off before switching out to keep up momentum after dropping a Draco. And instead, Noivern drops the ball, misses, and is then going to get KO'd immediately after. So, game spirals out of control from there, and the Wobbuffets barely squeak into the playoffs later. Okay, I said to look no further than that, but maybe we should. Let's take a stroll to the end of the quarterfinals matchup between the Wooper Boopers and the Waterdeep Wobbuffets. Jirachi just took 48% from a Shadow Ball from Indeedee, but Expanding Force did KO Slitherwing. A turn after it took out a Alolan Muck. Can Jirachi take the 1v4? Just Palmot and a low health Indeedee left. Let's Protect for a turn to try and scout. You can see that Palmot is locked into knockoff. That's actually two super effective attacks coming in. But wait! Steve still has the Terra Fairy option open. That's going to be an easy resist against the weakened knockoff, thanks to consuming the herb earlier, and Expanding Force will get the last two knockouts. So let's do it. Terra Fairy, resist the knockoff. Nice, Shadow Ball isn't super effective anymore. And that is a high roll crit. Game snatched away from Steve. You know, the Wobbuffets might have been the second best of the season, given the Boopers by far their closest scare in the playoffs, but oh boy, that's rough. No need to dwell on this any longer. Let's move on. And finally, okay, one more thing before we get to the top 10. We're back to the Week 7 match between the Sharpedos and Psyducks one more time for what I thought was a very funny moment here. Turn 8, Regigigas is going to bring Oricorio down to 1 HP thanks to Sash, and Oricorio in turn is going to bring the Neutralizing Gas Wheezing down very low, and of course Hippo is going to come out next. Do you see the problem here? Another Revelation Dance will KO the Wheezing, but obviously doing so has a consequence here, because in doing so, you're going to turn on Sandstream from the Hippowdon. Of course, you need to stop the Wheezing. You're setting up with your Cobalion. That is your current win condition. And Pain Split, we've seen, it could potentially Will-O-Wisp too. But when Oricorio does end up KOing Wheezing, it's going to do so voluntarily giving up its own life by triggering the Sandstorm by KOing its target. So I thought this was a very funny interaction. Okay, no more messing around, unless you're into that, which it looks like Steve is, and our number 10 Heat play. The pups couldn't take down Bert. I mean, that's just not fair, but what if we also added in a little more extra effect here from the Fire and Water pledges? Yeah, in this matchup, we're actually going to combine Fire and Water, and that rainbow on the field increases the odds of secondary effects triggering. And Steve wanted to take full advantage of that with the Rock Slide Blaziken and Muddy Water Swampert. That is going to help out at least a little bit. It does net a flinch here on Skeledirge. I would be remiss if I failed to mention that Swampert was also carrying Sludge. Yeah, Sludge, just Sludge, as a way to net a poison, potentially helping out with the rainbow there. It's really cool to see it pulled off. I really loved seeing Steve lead into it, and it ended up working out quite well for the Wobbuffets. Making their list debut at number 9, it's the Boulder Boulders, once again showing off against the Pikeville Pups, this time in Week 1. After a quick start, turn 2 has them swap in the Corviknight and the Shift Tree, and Corviknight is going to be setting up Tailwind. Now, this isn't necessarily heat in and of itself, I suppose, but when you get to see Shift Tree do anything with Wind Rider, really cool getting Wind Rider Shift Tree the boot, Terra Steel to resist incoming attacks, and here's Petal Blizzard. What a weird move. I've probably never seen used aside from maybe a Stray Serena, but apparently it's a spread move, and Core of Quad resists it being next to it after setting up the Tailwind too. It's still going to be alive, so another Tailwind goes off to give it another boost. It just keeps taking KOs. Are you kidding me? Shift Tree? What a show. Good stuff. Sazbo's all over this top 10 as he shows up again at number 8. Week 7 against the Newport Noctowls. The Boulders have always come up short but need a big win to get back into the playoffs race. And oh boy, do they make their presence known. Turn 1, Terra goes to avoid the fake out from Tinkaton, sure. Tricks Raikou a Choice Scarf, keeping it locked into the Calm Mind that it tries setting up, and Electrorub to ensure both bonds outspeed Tinkaton. Next up, then the next turn, obviously that Raikou is going to be forced to switch out, but we're also going to encore the Tinkaton, locking into Fake Out. And of course, that Raikou that is swap out goes right into Reuniclus, which is weak to the Terra boosted Shadow Ball, OHKOing it from full. What a start from the Boulders. They continue impressing throughout the game, including Ally Switch, Spiritomb, and especially with the Fire Struggle Bug from Yanmega. Wow, were those first two turns impressive, and the Boulders' biggest win of their WCL career. Speaking of teams we hadn't seen yet but are all over the top 10, the Close Combat Club are showing up here for the first time at number 7, facing off with the Rocky Mountain Cloisters. The trend here is turn 1 Terra, but this time it's the Terra Dark Volbeat. A strange option to Terra? Maybe, but it's immune to the Prankster Taunt from Grafaiai and can immediately get up Tailwind. and the turn after, it can encore the Grafia into taunt again, and it just sticks around and is a problem for almost the entire game. It gets up another Tailwind, encores Charizard to protect, encores Snorlax to protect, Tailwinds a third time, lives an overheat from Charizard thanks to the Terra, encores Gothorita into Fake Out, and Tailwinds a fourth time before finally going down, by which point the Close Combat Club has basically won the game already. Volbeat the Terra option, putting in the finest of work in this one. Next up, the Newport Noctowl are a mainstay top contender, and what better way to show off their team building skills than with their mascot pick, Noctowl, as they show off against Week 2 against the Hippo Hides. Turn 1, obviously Tailwind is going to be a good move, only a little bit of damage on the next turn after that, but that's nothing compared to what we've got coming out next. There is going to be a little bit of a problem they're facing here with the coaching Virizion that's going to be coming out to help buff up the horse that's next to it here. What do you do about this? What it's becoming a big, giant threat. Well, we can eliminate that, plus the Intimidate drops with Haze coming from the Noctowl, eliminating, again, all these boosts and buffs and the negative effects on your own side. That's really nice. There's going to be a great ally switch as well to help tank a Brave Bird, even if Trevenant goes down turn 5. The Hippo Hides have an early lead, but we're going to skip forward to turn 12 here. Noctowl is going to come in on an EQ, which is really nice, and then it's going to unfortunately be frozen and then gut off another Haze as it immediately thaws. And we actually see more application here too. Yes, the Mudsdale is boosting up a little bit with its defense, but also dropping the special attack stats from the Hydreigon. That's pretty important to be able to spam the Draco Meteor if possible. Thanks to that thaw, boom, the -4 special attack from Hydreigon, gone. You're going to be able to do it again. And after it thaws and does that, it's able to reset the Hydreigon special attack again. Another Draco and another Haze. How do you beat Hydreigon? Are you going to try and maybe boost up with your own Mon? Potentially with something like the Shell Smash on your Blastoise? I have bad news for you about the move Noctowl keeps clicking there. There go the boosts. Wow, the fun does end with a freeze later on, but Noctowl was genuinely pretty great. We love mascot picks around here, and that Noctowl was king. Starting off our top 5, who else but Sazbo again, this time in his Week 3 match against the Zigzagoons. Don't know if you've seen this before, but it's Porygon Z and Raichu, but this time it's going to be Terra Electric, and the star of the show isn't necessarily Porygon. Scarf Discharge, KOing Bombardier and Mienshao, and giving the boost to the Raichu partner with Lightning Rod. Yeah, that works. Wow. Another discharge of a Porygon who does go down relatively soon, but right after that, the +2 Raichu instead is going to be the star, clicking Surf to do big damage to everything that's left. You already see 2 super effective targets for Surf on the other side there. What a neat layered interaction from the Boldors, who steamroll to an easy win with some genius sets here. Okay, that's enough Sazbo glazing for now, so let's go to his most devastating moment of the season. This Week 8 match would give Sazbo a playoff spot with a win, but the number 4 spot goes to the Corviknight Clobbers, or what they did to keep the Boldors away from the playoffs. Raichu has been knocking stuff off, but on turn 4, you're not going to get Frostlass in time before it fires off the sideways Frost Breath into Tauros Aqua, who's not Intimidate, but Anger Point. So that is a max attack Tauros. That's going to be better than Acid Armor Tentacruel. Chilling Water is definitely not enough to stop Tauros, and then Moltres is next to with EQs coming out, sets up a Tailwind, which is nice, even survives the Air Slash, so they're going to go Tauros there. Tauros runs over Sazbo team, keeping him from playoffs in the final week. The worst part, Sazbo totally forgot he actually had been packing Haze as the last move on Tentacruel. Oof. And we're going to continue dunking on the Boldors as the Close Combat Club are back, winning the bronze medal for beating them up in Week 5. Sazbo has a plan. We're going to try a Fake Out and Toxic Spikes at the start. But what are you going to do about the Terra Ghost Alchemy with setup? No, not Decorate. Coaching Hariyama into the Calm Mind Alchemy. Poison Gas is a really cute tech, but another near Omniboost and Alchemy starting to get out of hand. It's taking nothing, and Terra Blast is going to 2-hit KO the Tentacruel. Now what? Draining Kiss, Oko's Spiritomb, and it heals back up to full. KO Salazzle, heals back up on Porygon. It's so over. The Cream Puff has won the entire game for the club. Congrats to Joe on the marriage, but Alchemy takes no prisoners. Coming in second place, big surprise, it's Sazbo again, this time in the Week 6 match against the Phalanx. Desperate for a playoff push, it's Spiritomb time, after Raichu went down early and the 108 souls have gotten up Trick Room. Conkeldurr is going to be the choice to break in Trick Room, but is it strong enough to break through the bulky Phalanx team? it's going to be with help of a sideways Will-O-Wisp, which triggers Guts on an Assault Vest Conkelder set. Really nice as it puts in some big work against the front line of the Phalanx. But we're going to skip forward a couple turns here and see that by the time we get to turn 7, it doesn't appear to have been enough. Trick Room is over, and they're both at 4 Mons with the Conkelder very low. Trick Room is over, the Phalanx now seem to have the Mon advantage. And what's Avalugg even going to do here? It does not seem to be strong enough to be able to do enough by itself, especially it takes a bit more damage there. Snowscape. Manual Snowscape, and oh no, Porygon Z is out. Terra Ice to get the defense boost. Blizzard, and oh my goodness, that is wicked. The manual Snowscape to set up PZ. Glad Sasbo was able to get full use of this mod in the low tier season. This is nuts. And as much as I thought all season that Sasbo would be the one to nail the #1 spot, I think it only fitting that the gold medal goes to the gold medalist. The Wooper Woopers entered into the finals the favorite, pivoting off their heavy reliance on Indeedee throughout the season to supporting the Indeedee with lots of physical offense that can take out dark types with ease. So in the finals, will the Woopers once again start with the fighting offense only to clean up late with the Indeedee? Nope, we're going with Expanding Force. Good old Psychic Terrain, nothing beats that. The first turn takes a long time to go off because of 2 main factors. The first, that the lead Glowking might go Terra Dark to set up Trick Room. Both teams going with their main strategy right away seems to favor the Empoleons. The other factor is that this strategy is hot. Like, this is a play that will burn you if you're not ready. But the Boopers, in the finals, proved that they were. Fling Pataya Berry into Indeedee, triggering the Pataya and the Weakness Palsy. That's going to be 2 KOs. Helping Hand means Dazzling Gleam KOs the Dark type on the next turn, or rather the turn after, and add in the Terra Psychic to KO 2 more with a little more boost in power, and what's 1 more with Stored Power as the last move to KO Glastrier, and there goes the most dominant finals match we've ever seen. Being in the finals and being something the Empoleons had no answer for was just too much to handle, enough to capture my #1 heat play of Season 17. Hope you enjoyed this look back through some of my favorite sets and favorite plays from the season, and I hope you're ready for a return to regularity in Season 18 coming soon.